it should fit around the backside of it.
Yeah, we can't see.
You can't see on the backside easily.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the BB Bus, where today I have a story for you that takes what I would usually see as the worst and most intimidating part of bus life, but fixes it with what I have now come to understand as the most powerful and the most meaningful part of bus life. Let me give you a little bit of context. Welcome to Alex's Desert Diesel Shop. I was going to leave this morning from this location. I've been here for the weekend with several other buses parked up, watching Super Bowl, hanging out, and I was going to head up to Sedona, and I got 5 miles down the road, stopped for gas, and noticed I had a sizable coolant leak. So I texted Alex, turned right around, came back, and we think it's the water pump. So I just went to town, got all the parts, got all the bits, and now we're going to try swap the water pump here in the desert. Anyways, I left, ran into trouble, called for help, and came right back. And from the moment that I rolled back into that camp until the end of this story, the guys that participated in this dropped everything that they had to do that day and spent the day helping me get back to where I could drive this bus. And if that isn't a demonstration of the power of this bus community, I don't know what is. Having gone to town and collected all the pieces that we needed, we started taking things apart. This probably wouldn't have been a job that I would have taken on by myself. However, that being said, I wasn't necessarily lost during the whole process. Once you start taking off pieces, it all kind of starts making sense, and you can follow lines and follow hoses from one place to another, and you can kind of figure out what the system is doing. Once you can get an idea of what the system's doing, then it's just about unplugging pieces from one thing to another, switching a piece in the middle, and then putting it all back together in the reverse order. So that's what we started doing. It wasn't long before we had the radiator and the fan shroud out, and most of the coolant had been drained from the system by that point. This is where we got pretty stuck. It took us about half hour to get to the fan, but once we got to the fan, we spent 4 hours trying to take the fan off of the water pump pulley.
Hey, I'm looking for a mechanic. I heard you're the guy.
There should be grooves. It should fit around the backside of it.
Yeah, we can't see.
You can't see on the backside easily.
Shit. Yeah,
Step ladder,
there's
step ladder or something.
some of them that have it on the front, but they're mostly on the back. Because what you have to do is you gotta hold that holds it still, so that way you can break that off.
I'm going to explain to you a little bit of the structure of what's going on so you can understand the challenge that we were in. In a van front end of these Ford 7.3s, everything is so compact and tight that getting to anything, reaching anything, the clearance to get a tool somewhere, it just isn't there. Even though we had the radiator and the fan shroud out, we still had a very, very tiny margin of space to get a tool where it needed to be. Even though we could get the tool onto the nut that we were supposed to loosen, it was at such an angle that putting any pressure on it would just kind of start rounding over the corners of the nut, which if we did that too many times, there'd be no way to ever get that nut loose. So we were trying all sorts of stuff. We slung ratchet straps around the pulley to hold the pulley stable. We were putting vice grips on the edge of the pulley and letting those bump up against the water pump itself, so that just trying to hold the pulley in place, because we have to twist this nut against the pulley. Anytime we moved the nut, either the pulley would move or we'd round over the corners of the nut and it wasn't moving either. At the end of the day, we ended up taking a Dremel to the edge of the fan housing and cutting a slot in a part of the fan. That way, instead of having this tool come in at an angle to get to the nut that's way deep inside the fan, we could come straight on from the edge. 4 hours after getting to the fan, we finally got the fan loose. There had been several false alarms where either I was pulling on it and I felt like I got it, or Jaime was there and he says, "I've got it." And it really wasn't there. It was more than an hour past that when we finally actually did get it, and we didn't believe him at first when he said that he got it loose. But sure enough, the fan spun right off. We took it out of there. At that point, it was just a handful of bolts to get the water pump off, throw the hoses back on, throw the fan back on, and once everything was back in, we were back in business. But we started this whole process early afternoon, and we didn't finish till right about 8 o'clock. In the meantime, we're in the middle of the desert. We don't have a clean concrete or epoxy shop floor. We don't have all the tools that would really make a job like that easy. We're rolling around in the dirt. We have coolant and engine grease dripping down our arms. But these guys were there, right there with me from the moment we started till the moment it was finished. We were all there together, all our arms in from the top, from the bottom, working on it together. And it was quite the moment once we finished it up. After the sun had gone down, some of the other families and people in the bus circle that we were parked in started cooking some dinner. They knew that we hadn't eaten. They knew that we weren't cooking food with our hands and bodies like that. And so they were like, whenever you guys are done, tacos are ready. And it was just an incredible little experience. It was a fantastic piece of community building to be part of. And it took my day being extremely stressed about engine problems, things that I'm not super familiar with, things that I'm pretty uncomfortable with and not very confident with. And it showed me a version of bus life that I was surprised to find. Not surprised in the sense that like I couldn't imagine it was out there, but surprised in the sense that I didn't really expect or realize that I would be the person in the center of that kind of moment. And it made for a really, really, really cool experience. Now that we've come to the end of the story, I was able to make it today several hours away from that location. I checked the engine several times to make sure that I wasn't low on coolant, wasn't low on trans fluid, and kept eyes on my temperature gauges to make sure that things were working right. I haven't seen a single drop of leaking coolant coming out, and the levels on my other fluids have been looking great. Again, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you. I wouldn't be here without you guys, and I'm looking forward to meeting up again in a couple weeks. Those of you that just finished this video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button down below so that more people like you can find my stories and maybe get a glimpse into what it's like living on the road and connecting with this community. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time here in the BBU bus. Bye. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the BBU bus, where today I've got a good story for you.